I'm just sharing my experience with you, and you can take what you want from it, but this is not a medical advice video. I'm not a medical professional. That's my disclaimer. Hi everyone! Last time you saw me, I was in a cast. I get the most questions about skating with a broken wrist, returning to skating after suffering a major injury. I was in a cast for over 7 months, which blows people's mind when I talk about it, and I don't know if my story is an outlier. It changed everything. I also have fully come back into skating. I did so much research and really didn't find a lot out there in terms of other people's experiences, specifically skater experiences. So I'm just excited to share some of my story and my journey with you today. I feel so much gratitude upon reflection of like what I walked through because I get to sit here fully healed, maybe encouraging you when you're in this place. Really hope that this helps someone to know that you're not alone. Healing from injury is really hard, and like walking through it is something that no one understands until they've been through it. Oh, there's so much to say. I don't even know where to begin. The injury story. Here's what happened. It was right after I had returned from a trip to Europe where I met all my skate buddies in real life. I was high on life. I had been skating every single day. I had been posting every single day. I had grown my following on Instagram. Everything was just playing out perfectly. I went to an event. They were marketing to skaters. I had to sign a waiver to come to this event. I was having the best night, was also drinking tequila. I had like 3 or 4 drinks at this point, and I do actually have the fall on camera. This clip looks like the most mild fall of all time, which is why it's so annoying. The alcohol was completely numbing my system. I did not know it was broken until the next day. I remember it being this moment when I fell, because after that I was like, okay, let me not skate anymore. I woke up and my wrist was throbbing. I remember kind of suffering through the day. I had fallen on my wrist before and it had hurt before. So I was like, I really hope I didn't break it. There was no swelling, no really visible injury. So that's why I was just like, am I being dramatic by going to the ER? So I went and got it checked out. Initially, after the first x-ray, they actually told me that I did not break my wrist. And I was very relieved. I was like, oh my God, life is good. I just need a couple days of resting and healing. I go home. They call me hours after and they said, it actually looks like you did break your wrist. We're gonna advise that you get in as soon as possible with a specialist. I went in a couple days later. They took more x-rays and they told me I had a scaphoid break, waist fracture in my left wrist. I'm not giving any medical advice, please, but I really encourage you to get second opinions from doctors before you decide on a treatment plan. I felt really frustrated with the way that this was handled because the first doctor that I saw wasn't the orthopedic doctor that I saw long term. He said, you're gonna go right to surgery. This is the most common path for people who break this bone. There's very restricted blood flow to the scaphoid bone. But the second doctor who saw me was like, you're young, you can probably heal on your own. You don't need to consider surgery right now. That sounded good to me because I was like, surgery seems so dramatic. I don't wanna have to process that. And she told me I would be in a cast for 8 weeks. And then they would evaluate. All the research I had done on a scaphoid bone was extremely scary. All of these Reddit forums and everything else I could possibly get my hands on about the scaphoid bone were horror stories. I heard people say like they broke their scaphoid and it was like 20 years ago and their wrist has never been the same. Really scary stories that I was so terrified would be me if I didn't really lock in. So those first 8 weeks were pretty much a blur. I did little photo shoots. I made it as fun as I could. Yeah, I was skating. The one doctor had told me, because I was like, can I still skate? He said, your cast is your best wrist guard. That wrist is not going anywhere. I don't know why I didn't have fear of falling with the cast. And mind you, I think you have to have the context that I was skating every single day. All of my friends, me growing this new platform was centered around skating. It was so jarring to feel like that was being ripped away from me. So I just wanted to have a quick note of explanation. When I first broke my wrist, I did take a week off of skating. So I had 2 conflicting doctor pieces of advice. The doctor I saw long-term was a woman, and the first doctor I saw was a man. The male doctor was very much pro, keep doing what you're doing, your cast is your best wrist guard, have fun, you'll be fine. The second doctor, I was scared to ask her. She found out I was skating a couple weeks in, so then she started checking in with me and like, are you skating, are you not skating, like da-da-da. So she was really hard on me with that. I obviously was going to go with the advice I wanted to hear. I had completely paused on learning anything new. I had been practicing a ton of new tricks and new things where I fell often, and so I just decided during those first 8 weeks that I would completely pause on any of that. I took a lot more rest days, just skated really to film content, which is why I have so much content of me skating in a cast. Obviously there is still risk, but I was just willing to take that risk, and I know not everyone's going to agree with me here, and that's okay. I also want to note that me skating while in a cast didn't affect the healing process or slow it down or change anything. I should have gone over that. There's so many things I need to just add in, but that's one. Then they changed my cast every 2 weeks, but every time I went to get a new cast, they would like weirdly make it shorter. I'm thinking I'm getting out of it soon. When I went back in at my 8-week appointment and she looked at my x-ray, she was like, yep, so we're gonna take you to surgery. It was such a quick, like, it was clearly not healing. And they literally put me in surgery in the next 2 days. They also put 2 pins in my wrist to stabilize. They were showing on the top of my wrist, which is why I have the little dot there. Everyone always asks about the dot. The dot is from where the pins were sticking out. Let me see if you can see that. It was some of the most pain that I've ever been through was the day after surgery. And I think it was because I wasn't staying up with my pain medication. While I had to adjust to life in a cast, it was nothing like the adjustment post-surgery. I remember being so determined from day one that I was going to get full mobility back. Mindset is a huge part of recovery. Your body will heal when your body is ready to heal. You might not know exactly when. You will get better with time, and things might be different, but they will be better. Having that mindset going into it, knowing that there is full mobility now. Like midsummer was really in a depression. My mom told me, Olivia, what is good about this season? And not being able to skate. I was like, there is nothing good about this season. And there's nothing that I'm learning. This is the situation that's keeping me from all the good things I want in my life. But her saying that to me really challenged my mindset. It makes me emotional. Again, I didn't know that this video would come out of breaking my wrist. I didn't know that 3 years post down the road that I would be able to connect with skaters who broke a bone. And that's something that I would have never known in the moment that I can reflect on and know now. My doctor told me after surgery that I was not allowed to sweat and I was not allowed to do any physical activity. This is why after surgery, my life flipped upside down. I was not able to skate with this cast and with this injury and the pins and everything else. It wasn't even an option. I went into some of the darkest moments in my healing journey, and it was incredibly challenging. I wish I could hug that version of myself because she walked through so much and she didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. They set my next appointment for 4 weeks, which just means that it's not healing so much harder than I ever expected. And now, like years later, I'm able to be like, wow, that journey shaped who I am as a person and changed so much about my perspective of healing, growth, and the reasons why we go through the things that we do. I actually started a membership at this like little gym just so that I could walk on a treadmill in the air conditioning, and walking became like my activity. The endorphins that like physical activity gives you, that's just gone. The pins, when they did finally take out the cast, it looked like a little wrist sandwich. If you get squeamish around like medical things, maybe don't look at this picture. Showing it now. I'll show you a progression of my casts. I was in a full surgical cast that had a sling. Then they took me to a plaster cast, but it still had my elbow in it so that this part of my arm was totally immobile. Then they took it down past my elbow, so then I had my elbow flexibility again. And I know people have asked me about like, were you able to fully straighten your arm? And no, it took some time, but I was like I said, I was so determined The little things in your life that you take for granted, that was like a huge lesson for me. Like, I never want to take the tiniest thing for granted. Putting my hair up in a ponytail, like washing dishes with both. I didn't have a dishwasher in my old apartment. I had a stack of dirty dishes in my sink, and I remember just being so afraid of asking for help. And I remember hiring a house cleaner to just come for the day and wash my dishes. And I remember her commenting on how clean my apartment was, and she was like, "It's really just your dishes." And I was like, yeah. But I was at such a breaking point of, I feel like it's been months and I have to figure out how to do things differently. Typing one-handed, showering was the worst. I remember like just being so excited to be out of cast so that I could feel clean. I just wanted to scrub every inch of my body with both my hands. I wanted to scrub my hair with both my hands. Washing my hair was a whole thing. One of my really close friends, she at some point washed my hair for me. I came over her house and I put my head in the tub. I remember having a conversation with someone who broke their ankle. Their list of grievances of things that they always took for granted was very different than mine. I had so much joy in the little things when I was able to use both my hands again. It lit me up in a way that you'd think is so funny, but that long experience in a cast really made me the person I am today. I'm really interested in hearing about your skate injury and what lessons you learned from it, because I think we can all learn from each other in a lot of ways, and every skate injury story, every broken bones story is different and unique. Where were we at? Months pass. Everything is taking longer than it was supposed to. Like, the doctor kept giving me these timelines, and I held on to those timelines for dear life. I was like, it's going to be 2 weeks because she said it was going to be 2 weeks, and I would go in and she'd be like, "Oh, we need another 2 weeks." It was so infuriating and frustrating. I had tickets to Skate Love Barcelona, and I had booked them before I broke my wrist. I was going to go to Spain. I had my plane ticket booked. I really thought the timeline that she had initially given me had perfectly lined up so that Spain, come September, I would be fine to go to the roller skate festival, even if I was like skating less or in a brace or whatever it was. The timeline did not line up, so then I started researching my other options. The pins needed to be removed from my wrist, so the pins were removed for me to be able to skate at all. I found a cast company that did 3D cast printing for these waterproof, like futuristic looking casts, and I was like, that's what I want. I want to go to Barcelona and I want to be able to swim. I want to go to the beach. How hard I had to work to get this 3D printed cast and the hoops that my doctor made me jump through. I drove 3 hours to Jacksonville, Florida to go to this specific office that gave me a 3D scan of my arm. I'll show you footage as well. It's very interesting. They 3D scanned my arm, 3D printed the cast, mailed it to me, shipped it to me. It arrived just in time, and the doctor was like, "We don't have time to just like put this on the schedule and take off your cast and put you in this one." Even though they had approved me, I was like, I'm leaving and I'm getting this cast off me and I'm putting on this other cast, and I don't care how I'm gonna do it. So I did. I had a coworker of mine literally saw off my plaster cast with me in it. Very unrecommendable. Another quick note from editing. There was not a literal saw. I think I made it sound like someone took a chainsaw to my cast, and that's not really what happened. My coworker, he was also the maintenance guy, and he had like I don't remember what he ended up using, if it was like clippers or like sharp something that he was able to kind of cut through. It's difficult. They don't make it easy for you to get out of a cast, but I did it. I have no regrets. I went to Spain and I enjoyed every second. I did everything I was supposed to do. The doctor at that time told me, like, this 3D cast is gonna get you through anything, because I got a lot of judgment. I got a lot of hate for skating with the cast on. It is what it is. You're gonna say what you're gonna say. I don't really care. At this point also, my doctor had prescribed me a bone stimulator. People have asked me a lot of questions about the bone stimulator and if it worked. I don't know, because I used this bone stimulator for 3 months, 2 months, something like that, so religiously. I used it more than I thought, than they even told me I needed to, because I was just like, if there's any chance that this is helping, I'm gonna put it on my wrist as long as I could. I got back from Spain. I really thought the light was coming at the end of the tunnel, but I remember when she finally said I could remove the cast, I was so happy. But I was also so alarmed at the changes on my arm and just everything. I had a tan line that didn't go away for months because of how long I was in that cast. So this whole part of my arm was so pale and so skinny. 7 months in total. Yeah, so it hadn't been moved. It was not tan. My skin was extremely sensitive for a while. And then I also had like shoulder mobility problems from the elbow in the cast, and then also just from lack of use of this arm. Like even if I could move my shoulder, I wasn't as much because I wasn't using this hand. I actually got this tattoo after I got out of the cast just to like celebrate and do something fun getting through the cast era. Again, a little bit of irritation with my doctor because I kept asking her like, what mobility exercises do I need to do? So the reason I was frustrated with my doctor was that she only gave me a single worksheet with like 2 exercises or 3 mobility exercises that I could do, and didn't give me any other resources. So I just leaned on YouTube and did the research myself as I go into here. But I just wanted to clarify that because I think I was irritated, but then I never went into why. That's why. I want my full mobility back because I now know that you do have control. When it comes to like introducing mobility back into an unused body part, your body is resilient and your body will learn with repetition. And even if you don't see changes happening immediately, the repetition is what works. I had a friend who would laugh at me because I looked like I had a Barbie hand. Like my hand naturally wouldn't lay like how a normal hand lays. Like I would be walking and my hand would just be like. So I did a lot of research on my own. I specifically looked up on YouTube and other platforms like scaphoid break, wrist mobility exercises, like things that were specific to my bone, to the break that I had. And I did every one under the sun for as long as I could. And it was uncomfortable, but it wasn't painful. This is really important. When you're doing your mobility exercises, there should never be like sharp shooting pains. It should be a little bit of discomfort. You're pushing it a little bit out of its range of motion, but it will in time get there. And that is what I truly believe gave me the mobility that I have today, because I don't have any long-term effects. Ooh, getting back on skates. I think I got back on skates like literally the day after. I was so excited. And I think it's so important to remember that each person is different. My mindset was, how can I get back to where I was before? Because I was on fire in terms of skating every day. And so because of that, I really jumped back into it very quickly. I never fully returned to where I was before breaking my wrist in terms of how addicted I was to skating. That feels sad if you think of it that way, but I actually don't think of it as a sad thing. I remember a big lesson I learned: investing in multiple areas of your life is a positive. I skate when I'm feeling stressed or anxious. I create content as like a creative outlet, but I have invested in other areas of my life, other hobbies. I've picked up surfing recently. I also love art, music, teaching myself new piano songs. The other thing is friends. I was only investing in my skate friendships, and there was a lot of people that had been in my life that I hadn't hung out with them in a really long time prior to breaking my wrist because they didn't skate and my life was skating. Reinvesting in those relationships kept me grounded. I no longer obsessed over just this one thing. And I don't think it's bad to have those seasons. Sometimes you do need a little jolt of reality. And now I skate and it's really fun, but it's just an added part of my life. It's not what my life is centered around. I want to give more advice on how to overcome fear and how to just do something again. I'm not a very fear-based person. And my whole mantra in life is, if you're scared of something, but you really, like, you have this end goal in mind, my advice has always been, do it scared. Do it scared. There's different small adjustments you can make to your skate experience that will help in the long run. Wearing your protective gear, you've stretched before skating or warmed up your body in a way that you feel confident. Learning how to fall, I think that's like one of the most common ones, and making sure you have proper fitting skates and good gear. If you have really cheap skates that are not supporting your ankles in the correct way, you might be at a higher risk to break something. At the end of the day, you might have to do it scared. You might have to ease back into it. Maybe pause on learning new tricks. That was a huge tactic I used. I just want to continue to exercise the muscle of skating. So skating trails, rolling around, just listening to music and vibing out, and not trying to push myself to like get sit spins or whatever it was. The specific question that I get asked a lot is like, when did you feel like your wrist was totally back to normal? It will vary widely for individuals based on how much physical therapy you're doing, how many stretches you're doing, how long you were in a cast for, what bone you broke. Like, there are so many variables. So I think the biggest thing that people want is like to have a timeline laid out for them and to have something that they can trust and rely on. And I think that's what's so scary about breaking a bone, is there isn't a universal timeline for everyone. And I think the scariest thing and the biggest lesson I learned was you have to let go of the timelines and you have to just take baby steps every single day to get better, because there isn't a universal timeline for healing. That's probably the last thing you want to hear. So I will tell you, for me, my timeline was after I was out of my cast, I did my mobility exercises. I want to say daily. I did them as often as I could. I don't even know if there was an exact timeline that I can remember of like, oh, my wrist is back to normal now. But I do have video like I think it was May of the following year. So how many months is that? 7 months. That's the first documented evidence I have of my wrist being able to fold all the way down. And putting weight on it and other things was a whole other thing. I know my wrist felt weird for a while, and everyone has different healing timelines. Just a message to anyone who's going through a skate injury right now. You got this. You're gonna get through it. You're gonna get better. Life doesn't end because you have a broken bone. You will learn something so unique in this season that no other season will teach you. You have to walk through this fully present. It will get better and it will get easier with time. You are able to get through anything you put your mind to, including this injury. Do not be discouraged. Do not feel fear that you're never going to get back to where you were. You might never get back to where you were, but you're going to get to a new place that's even better. That's what I would say, because I feel that way. I feel like I might not ever be the exact same person I was before I broke my wrist, but I am so happy with the trajectory of my life, and where it's brought me has shaped who I am as a person. I opened myself up to the possibility that painful situations are there for a reason and are there to teach you something. I didn't let myself become a victim of that situation, but I let myself become an overcomer. You cannot measure your healing journey next to anybody else's. Instead of focusing on what you can't control, which is a healing timeline, focus on the baby steps of every single day that gets you in the direction that you want to be in. Sorry if this is like more motivational and less like concrete and a little cheesy, but I know I'm really speaking to myself of 3 years ago. Like, I wish myself could hear the words that I'm sharing today. So hopefully it's left you with something to think about. Comment what you think I should do my next video on, and I'm going to try to be more consistent on here. I hope you have a really great day. Like, comment, subscribe. Bye. My foot's falling asleep.